Imagine that I have an audience of between 17 and 25 people. And they're not all the same age. In fact, their ages are varied from a pair of senior citizens on down to someone perhaps 15, 16 years old, and anywhere in between, scattered randomly. So I've got an audience of people, and I must entertain them, you see. I'm writing a novel about a comedian. It's titled The Impressionist. And he does various accents, which he practices in his motel rooms. And he travels all the time. He's on the narrator, not necessarily me, but close to it. The narrator calls, as well as Jack Bayfield's his name, his entertainment circuit, which is 2 months of these appearances in the Northwest, extending as far east as Missoula or Butte, and then as far south as Pocatello, Idaho, and on up into Oregon, Pendleton, Bend prior to that, and further north into the state of Washington, Walla Walla. There's a college there, private school, Whitman College. Some very smart and brilliant students go there. And then it's further up, essentially Interstate 5, Tacoma, and then finally Seattle. And Seattle is the end point of this entertainment circuit, and then it starts all over again. So that's 2 months he's on the road. Now, he when he first started doing this, prior to that, he had been a disc jockey at an AM radio station located in Medical Lake, and he lived in Spokane with his family. He was married. His wife was a school teacher, high school English, and they had 2 children. Susie and her brother, what was his name? I'll get to that later. Anyway. And then another character in the book is Jack's father, Theo, whose mother was a child of parents who had emigrated from Greece. And so she married a man named Bayfield and had a son, and she named him Theodophilus. That was his first name. And so Jackson, formerly, his middle name is Theodophilus, his father's first name. His father was an electrician, and worked all his life in construction, doing all the wiring and so on. And he's in the union, the Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, something like that. And now Theo feels ashamed of his son because his son is no longer taking care of his family in the proper sense, at least not financially, and certainly not in the sense of his being around anytime. He's never around. He's always on the road, which is the fate of an entertainer, I suppose. But that was his choice. This is what he's always wanted to do. So he's one of those people who are forever insistent about following their dreams, whatever they might be. Oftentimes, the bedazzled dreams of becoming well known in either Nashville or Hollywood or Motown or Broadway if you happen to go in the actor's direction and so on. Or if you go in the direction of a scientist, then a 4-year graduate stint at some prestigious university, and then postdoctorate research on some project of imminent need to the entire world, some new vaccine, no doubt. In the last novel I wrote, I didn't pay too much attention to the pandemic. The novel prior to that, the second book, Back in Time, that I completed, and I've done several over the years, none of them published by any traditional publishing house. Anyway, it's called Clark's Landing, and that did deal with the pandemic specifically. The ramp up of community effort to somehow deal with this problem in a unified way. And even that became problematic in itself because there were conflicting ideas and messages coming out from Washington, D.C. You had rational and very necessary information honestly given, as honestly as a scientist can be, as accurately as they can be, including the range of probability that they're dealing with, because there always is one. It's a range of probabilities which, in scientific research, one find meaningful, and anything above 95% is meaningful, believe me. Now, in the social sciences, they don't require such accuracy, and they rarely ever obtain it in their surveys. I'm not too well acquainted with that. It's, in my view, always a mistake when a social science attempts to, you might say, scientize their approach to the point where empirical claims are so absurd in terms of accuracy alone. I mean, human beings are full of ambiguities throughout life. And there are always these ranges and spectrums to take into account if you happen to be a writer of fiction in describing any particular character. There's the broad brush and there's the fine brush and anything in between. Of course, it was E.M. Forrester who conceived of the flat and the round character. The round character was one of the important half dozen or so in any novel you care to read. And then the flat character were the what you might call the walk-on parts, the minor parts. So there are other people involved in this novel. There's Jack's former lady friend Sheila, and her last name is Polish. Sarakovsky, that was her last name. She was raised by a single mother whose husband had disappeared. And she was very well, she was very bright, and she could teach herself anything. And the way she earned her living was by assisting other people with their computer problems, from forgotten passwords to lost files and that sort of thing. She helped people set type from a manuscript and things like that. She was good at typesetting. She understood the Microsoft programs through and through. By accident, there's a scene where they go to Roscoe's Comedy Club. This is a fictional comedy club in Seattle. And it's Jack's moment that he's been working on. He's been working on a new routine, and he's went through it once prior in Tacoma, and then took the bus, which is his only mode of transportation. He doesn't own a car, and he never flies. So anyway, Bernie Youngers lives in the same apartment complex as Sheila Sarakovsky. And Sheila Sarakovsky is the woman at Jack's principal port of call, you could say, in Seattle. And so they have a sexual relationship, which is problematic, since it's not random, but it's intermittent, to say the least. With these 2-month-long separations throughout time. Well, Bernie, he works at the Seattle Arts Commission, and he has a job of coaxing film companies to do their productions in Seattle. And so he hobnobs with these location scouts from Hollywood, shows them around, shows them all the unusual sights. Bernie knows them all. And anyway, so Bernie goes to Roscoe's Comedy Club to while away a few hours on a Friday evening after work, rather than go to the movies because he's fed up with films out of Hollywood portraying cartoon characters and so on, or drunken detectives and combating serial killers, something like that. Well, anyway, so Bernie's waiting outside for a cab to go back home because he knew he's going to drink too much. And Jack comes out and he's going to catch a cab down to Sheila's place. Well, it turns out they're going to the same general place. There's a Pacific Rim apartment complex where both Bernie and Sheila live. Bernie on the 4th floor and Sheila on the 2nd floor of the same flippin' building, no less. So that's how they meet, and they get together, and it goes through time. So now they have a 7-year-old boy, and he's in his first year of elementary school, and his mother goes through the business of doing the typesetting on a birthday party invitation. And then she goes to a quick print shop and has these invitations done with a score down in the center for fold. And she gives all these to her son, and he doles them out in his first grade school classroom. So anyway, I've got these 3 different strands, and then Erica, who is Jack's former wife, they're divorced now. She couldn't deal with his adultery or his absences prolonged, and so she moves back to Spokane, where she grew up. They both grew up in Spokane. They met at Rogers High School, and she continues to raise her children, earn a living as a high school English teacher in Spokane. So anyway, it goes on and on. And now I've got Bernie confronted with his first adulterous affair with the wife of a guy about my age who wants to run for a seat in Congress, the Eastern Washington Congressional District. It covers a lot of area, and is currently held by Kathy McMorris Rogers. So I've got that element in the novel too, and I work on it every morning, early, every single morning. Keeps me busy. So it's about 60,000 words now, 200 pages. I'm not sure how it'll end or where it'll end, but it continues. That's it.